Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the
Hello, everyone. Welcome into Guerilla Sports Off Ice. Good to see you guys again. JJ Jerez here alongside Jesse Montano and Meghan Angley. Woo! Here to break down the night that was for the Colorado Avalanche.
For the record, that was me cheering for Meghan Angley, not
the
my
Avalanche.
own
game.
intro. Yeah, no.
Oh, I thought you were, cheering for the Avalanche. It's tough to cheer for the Avalanche right now. Of course, still looking for their first win. It's kind of a weird start to the season, though, because along with the Avalanche, the Oilers still looking for their first win. Nashville still looking for their first win. And the Calgary Flames looking for their first loss still. So some weird stuff going on throughout the league. So I think that alone kind of can give you a little bit of peace of mind and say, all right, there's weird stuff happening up and down the standings here, especially Carolina and Washington have only played one game each still.
That's very
Well, and then I
strange.
saw that there's like two teams. I think New Jersey's one of the teams that's played 5. I don't know. Well, and I guess they had the Global Series stuff, but still, just kind of odd.
Yeah. So how are you guys today? Hasn't been that long. But
Good.
it's good to see your faces.
I feel bad. I'm texting Chloe, our producer on the show, just letting her know about some of the stuff that we got uploaded earlier that we're going to talk about. I realized I didn't tell her.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oopsie.
So check your phone. Slow. I'm good, man. Probably feeling better than a lot of the folks in the Avs room today. But just happy to be here, JJ.
Meghan, can you describe for us and the listeners and viewers the vibe in that dressing room after the game last night?
It was low. I've seen it lower, so I don't believe it's a point that they can't come back from. But even in recognizing that this is just the start of the season, it's only 3 games, they're feeling a lot of that pressure. It's not a result that they're happy with. Hearing Makar talk so critically of himself, it's a pretty low sense. And even Mikko Rantanen talking about trying to get the confidence up, he didn't sound like he had a lot of confidence in the confidence getting boosted up. And so I think that they can work on that and improve from that place, but it was low.
Avalanche 6-2 loss last night to the New York Islanders. Didn't see that coming. But yesterday we spent a huge portion of the show talking goaltending. It's actually been a conversation since the season started here. Now we're almost a week into it. How do you assess the goaltending from last night's loss? Alexander Georgiev specifically.
I don't think he was the problem last night like he was in the first 2 games. But it's hard right now because the second period of that game, the Avs really struggled to generate anything. The Islanders just kind of clamped things down, took the game to the mud, really just kind of slowed everything down. And just those are the types of games where I want your goaltender to help you out. Team's having an off night. Can the goaltender bail them out? Ilya Sorokin thought it several times last night, made saves he had no business making. And even in a game that was starting to get away from the Avs, I thought they had opportunities to get back in that Sorokin just out, great play from him.
Mm-hmm.
But again, Georgiev wasn't my issue last night. Thought the first one was tough, and I felt like you saw the morale kind of sink after that one went in. But I mean, he made saves. He was fine last night. It's hard to feel good about fine coming off of really bad 2 times in a row.
Yeah, he's also finding a little bit of bad luck, right? I mean, that poke check, that
I thought the first one was a bad decision. I didn't think that he should have been diving out for that.
but
puck.
the thing is, he got it.
It
just bounced off a shin. Like it was
Well,
well timed.
But the issue I didn't like it was because the player was too close. Like that was just such a risky play. I didn't think that there was a large enough gap between the puck. And who was that? Was it?
I forget.
Was it Brock Nelson?
Let's
I want to say it was Brock
I think it was
Nelson.
Nelson.
I didn't think that because I don't know.
Palmieri.
Palmieri? Really?
Yes.
It's criminal that they don't let him have a beard. I can't tell that guy apart without a beard. But like, I don't know. I feel like if you're a goalie, if you're going to make that decision on a puck, I feel like you got to be pretty sure that not only can you get to it, but that you can make a play on it to a safe area. I just felt like that was one where Palmieri was a stick length from that puck. It just left too much room for something weird to happen, which is exactly what did happen. The second poke check he missed, I didn't have an issue with. I had a huge issue with the way that Shillington played the second missed poke check, but the first missed poke check I actually didn't like.
Megan, your thoughts on the goaltending?
It's still not good enough, but he wasn't the problem last night. This would have at least been a tie game, and it would have been decided by still probably the team in front of him if it weren't for some of the mistakes that they made. But a tie game means that the goaltending performance didn't give you a save that you needed when their creation after the first period dwindled. They were pretty stifled creatively, and that's where I'm looking then a little more critically at the team in front of him than I am goaltending.
For the second time in 3 games, we saw the Avalanche score first and ultimately give away the lead. I guess just your thoughts on that. What gives?
Well, so and this is where if you want to look back at goaltending, I feel like it is this portion of the game. I agree with Megan's assessment just then. Like, you probably still want better from Georgiev, but that was not the reason they lost last night.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do. I feel like great play from Cale Ritchie to get that puck to space for Josh Manson, and then beautiful pass from Josh Manson to find Cale Ritchie back door. First NHL goal, the building's into it. The team looks like they've got a little bit of juice, and it's a soft goal. It's a soft goal that should not go in from that angle again. And you don't like the goal, and I don't like that Georgiev gives it up because, again, that's one of those where it's like, gosh, they needed that save in the moment. In that moment, they need you to make that easy save. But this is then where I'm with Megan, and the focus then shifts back to the team. In my opinion, he gave up a soft goal, and you just saw everyone like, all right, well, doesn't matter. And I felt like the energy level dropped, felt like the intensity dropped, felt like the execution level dropped after that first goal. And that's where you've got to continue to battle through.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, you can maybe look at the goaltending as, why are they giving up these leads so quickly? Because I think the first goal against Georgiev in the second game and the first goal against Georgiev last night were bad goals, but you got to keep playing. You can't stop playing because your goalie gives up a bad one. Like you just can't punt on everything that you're doing.
Yeah, they have to sustain some good play after they score, right? And be able to, ward off some of the offensive pushes from the opponents. It's the opposite mindset that they have when they're down. When they're down, they don't stop fighting.
Mm-hmm.
They, have had some pretty miraculous ways of getting back into games despite their goaltending.
Mm-hmm.
But last night, when they had a little bit of goaltending show up, they didn't seem to be able to fight for the victory, fight for the lead, and just kind of lost it. So it's a weird mindset thing that they have going on, and it's not the only place that they have it going on.
No, I completely agree that the mental struggles that Georgiev was fighting through felt like it spilled over to the rest of the team last night.
At the end of the first period, it's still a 1-goal game. And their first period was their best period. Even after the Anders Lee goal, there were things that they did well that indicated to me they were still in this game. I liked the effort through the first period. And even, kind of the late goal, it's the one that we don't like, the breakaway goal with the risky Georgiev stick check.
Mm-hmm.
That should be something that they can bounce back from. That's just a
Mm-hmm.
50-50 chance in a goaltender making a decision that's difficult to make. I don't think you can just lose faith entirely because he made the wrong 50-50 decision. And so that's what's frustrating is the things that don't go well for them in the second period and then in the third period especially. Jared Bednar used the words cheating the game. I think that they lead back a little bit on some of the things that make Avalanche hockey Avs hockey. And it seemed like it came from a place too of feeling desperate to create offensive opportunities. So I don't think their motives were entirely sinister, like they're lazy. I think they were just starting to get really desperate to create. And that's why I think they strayed from it. But that points to then an effort. Again, I don't think their motives are sinister, but that's not a goaltending thing. This game was within their reach after 20. They let it slip through their fingers for the final 40.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of want to get into Cale Ritchie's goal and spray some positivity on this podcast. It's all not doom and gloom.
Spray.
Yeah. Interesting
We're
word.
spraying it all over. Cale Ritchie just really strikes me as somebody that we're going to see tremendous growth from just in this season. I think the Cale Ritchie we're seeing here through the first 3 games shows glimpses of high potential, high promise that by the time the end of the years come around, Jared Bednar's had a full season to work with him and coach him up individually like we've seen a lot. I think we're really going to be happy of the decision that Cale Ritchie sticks around.
And I think he already looks more confident. Like game 3 versus game 1. He already, like last night, he scored that goal. You could tell he was feeling himself a little bit. Like he was making plays. He was putting pucks on net, like trusting his abilities a little bit more, like we heard Jared Bednar talk about. And so, yeah, no, I'm with you. It's still a long ways to go. Still a long ways to go, no doubt. But I like baby steps. I like the baby steps I'm seeing.
He has a good baseline for his confidence, which is a good sign from a young player to have that much belief in himself. But you could see the game open up for him after the goal. You know, he's deking Romanov 1v1, trying for rebound chances. And it's not something that should surprise anyone because he is a confident player, but you could see the confidence grow just after he got that first one. And to your point of him being a quick study, you could see him starting to figure it out. Like that pass to Manson to create his first goal is one that wouldn't ordinarily get across the slot. It is one that he was struggling to, find those lanes, and he's starting to figure it out a little bit more. I think all of that's really encouraging for how his game already translates to the NHL, at least in the offensive zone.
Yeah, I think equally encouraging is you can tell guys like Nathan MacKinnon, for example, believe in Cale Ritchie's ability. They have trust in him. It was a no-look pass that MacKinnon was trying to feed to Cale Ritchie. The pass kind of got broken up, but you could tell that Nathan MacKinnon had the confidence that Cale Ritchie was going to be able to make something out of that pass when, I think it was kind of a difficult play. Maybe somebody differently he wouldn't have trusted with that puck. Again, the puck never got to him, so we couldn't see what he was able to do with it. But I think Nathan MacKinnon placing a little boat of confidence there for Cale Ritchie on just trusting him with the puck.
Power play minutes, not power play minutes. 6-on-5 minutes too at the end of the game for Cale Ritchie. I thought was an interesting, again, just show of confidence that we think this guy is an offensive weapon for us, and we're willing to put him out there to not only try to get us a goal, but to be responsible enough with the puck on his stick with our net empty. So I think you're starting to see that confidence build, not just for Cale Ritchie, but for a lot of people around him.
Yeah.
In him. People around him having confidence in him.
Again, take a mental snapshot of where we are right now with Cale Ritchie. We'll revisit it at the end of the year and kind of see how this growth and confidence and trust has grown.
Well, in our tally, the 9 games, we're 3 in. So our time with Cale Ritchie could be limited. So I think it's okay to continually revisit this conversation because we're going to start having a countdown here soon about making tough decisions around him.
I mean, shit, if these injuries keep piling up, they won't be able to afford to send Cale Ritchie away.
Well, and considering we're talking about his rapid growth and his fit into the NHL? Do you think that the Avalanche are going to find themselves even questioning whether or not he should be in the NHL?
I think what I'm finding challenging with Ritchie is when players that do return, that we're counting on returning, how does his role translate then to the middle or bottom six? Because it's hard to see him in the top six late in this year. And the things that he would need to do in a middle or bottom six role are the things that have the most question marks around. He is a quick study. I want to have a lot of belief in him, but I think that the time of year for the Avs to be experimental is at the beginning in a way that they might not be able to afford experimenting later in the year because they're just trying to rack up wins and ensure their place in the playoffs. So they might not have room for that later in the year, which is why they might have to make a hard decision around Ritchie. I'm not writing him off just yet. I still want to see the full length of the 9 games, but if I had to make a decision today with 3 games, I don't think I could justify it yet.
Really? Oh, see, I feel to me, I like he to me looks like a young kid playing through his first handful of games in the NHL, and I'm with you. I'm looking at him going, hell yeah, you have to keep this kid around because, I mean, like it would just be Harlem Globetrotters every night in the OHL for him. Like to me, I also think you're correct in that. Like he has to play himself into a situation where it's like, yeah, you're going to kind of force them to play you with good players. And my other thing with it too is, as we've talked about, if you get everybody back, right? This is that one day since the last injury. We had to reset it already. If you can get everybody back, Cal Ritchie should be playing with some good players, even in a bottom 6 role. Like you're probably looking at Kovalenko and Landeskog, and I think you can really set him up for success with the players that are around him. And at the same time, like I'm almost looking at it as he's shown me enough that I'm sitting here and saying, I don't think Gabe Landeskog is back till close to the new year. We're still not really clear on Val Nichushkin in terms of when he'll be able to get back into the lineup. I think you need Cal Ritchie. Like, I think that that's a player that I do agree with you. Through 3 games, I don't think he looks like he hard belongs in the NHL. But for me, I'm seeing enough out of him that I'm saying I think that's a player you're going to need come January.
I need to see him with other talent. I have ideas for some of the next games coming up. And one of them is I want to see him more with some tougher talent. I want to see him with Parker Kelly. I want to see him with Kiviranta. Okay, so how I actually broke this down, I think I have him with Kovalenko and Kelly in my third line for the next upcoming games. I want to see how he does in that role. There's still a skilled player in Kovalenko. Like Kelly's kind of a neutral role on that line. What can Ritchie do with that? Can he be trusted with minutes? Can be trusted with a little bit of opportunity to be the creative talent on that line? I want to see that. One, because they can afford to experiment a little bit, and I have ideas for the top 6 that would require this. But if Ritchie can handle himself with that caliber of player, I'd have more confidence that he can stick in the NHL later in the season and then in the playoffs. That's where I have the biggest concerns, and it all goes back to Newhook and the lack of trust that Bednar had around that player. I think that Ritchie has a leg up on Newhook in terms of already doing things in his OHL career that Bednar would like, that Bednar would trust a little bit more. I think he can find a better fit for Ritchie than he could for Newhook, but that's still my concern.
I like the physicality for Ritchie. Like he's not afraid to step into guys, and he's not he's not an overwhelmingly big guy, but he's also not like an undersized player. And I like the fact that he hasn't shied away from contact and like Megan's saying, like doing things that Jared Bednar likes. Like he doesn't look like he's afraid to play on the wall. Again, there have been some times in these first couple of games where he's looked like a young player with a little bit of like I don't want that guy to run me over. But we've seen him a few times throw his weight around. He threw a reverse hit on someone. Was it last night or 2 games ago? That again, like to me, I'm seeing a player that is very moldable, and these injuries are shaking out well for him, because Megan's right. Like, and I'm always the biggest proponent around this of like, yeah, I get it. You're a scorer. You may need to play bottom 6 minutes for this team to be in the lineup. Cale Ritchie's got an opportunity right now where that's not the case. Like, the injuries have stacked up to the point where it's like you're going to get to be put in positions where you can really show out for what stands out about your game. And I want to see him continue to take advantage of that. I think he's going to be really interesting. Because again, I do agree with Megan. I don't think it's been perfect through 3 games. I think there's been a lot of stuff that's been very raw, but for me, I've seen enough that I want to keep the experiment going. I'd hate to cut it off at this, next week.
Yeah, absolutely. You're seeing glimpses of hope, but you're also seeing more and more by the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what's really giving me the confidence. I love the idea of testing him a little bit with maybe some weaker line mates, sliding him down to the third line. But I think that also maybe opens up the matchups, right? If he's kind of playing against other teams' third line versus second lines, or, depending on how opponents want to attack it, that might give him a little bit more space, a little bit more room to show his offensive side. Really, it's about what he can do defensively and how he can kind of lead a line.
You'd want to see him in the middle of that, Kelly and Kovalenko?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I trust Kelly and Ritchie down the middle like pretty equally, so I wouldn't mind if they gave both of them a chance in the middle and figured out who looked best where.
Because that's almost kind of my thing is, if you're going to keep Cal, like, don't be afraid to put him on the wing.
I think it's better for him to get the most out of him right now. I want to see him get opportunity down the middle for a long-term goal. I think the Avs need that depth at center. But for right now, I think Kelly has played center at points, though he is predominantly a wing. I think he's fine to at least center the line and let a little bit of that defensive responsibility up off of Ritchie. Let Kovalenko and Kelly especially assume that, and hopefully influence good habits too.
I really want to know what your thoughts for the top 6 are if you're taking Kovalenko and Ritchie out of it, because there's not a lot of guys left to plug in up there.
I'm moving Casey Mittelstadt to wing with McKinnon, and you're going to hate this. You're going to hate this.
I was going to say, I already do, but keep going.
Logan O'Connor, work with me.
All right. Okay.
Wood, Colton, Rantanen. I think McKinnon and Rantanen need to be split up. I think McKinnon likes playing with Mittelstadt and creating with him. And I think that right now, the top line isn't top lining without Drouin.
You know what's I'm so sorry. I'm going to cut you off just for that. Nathan McKinnon has 3 players on this team that he plays exceptionally well with. Mikko Rantanen, Jonathan Drouin, and Arturi Lehkonen. How are 2 of those guys hurt? Like, it's just crazy. I'm sorry. You said you mentioned McKinnon and Rantanen, and I was like, how are we running through wing? Like, Nathan McKinnon plays. I'm sorry. I
think Megan has something here, though. I think McKinnon plays well with the Mittelstadt. He wants to play well with the Ritchie, right? They kind of have those higher IQs that come with being a highly skilled guy, that they can really create some tic-tac plays. So I'm kind of liking where you're going so far.
So, okay, someone said, what about Colton, Ritchie, Rantanen? Here's my idea with Ritchie, and I'm putting him on this kind of weird third line. I do want to see him spot shift. I actually would love to see Ritchie up there with Mittelstadt and McKinnon a little bit too. So OC is kind of the safety net that's there, but I kind of want to see him spot shift a Ritchie up there and then have OC kind of being a steadying player too that he can put there if this game needs something a little bit different. Because I think where I saw issue with the balance of the lines in general is on recovering pucks. I think that they need that distributed a little bit more throughout the lines to help better maintain possession. And I think they need someone like a Logan O'Connor up there with them to help retrieve pucks. And so that's where I like him up there. But obviously the finesse and skill of a Ritchie also kind of looks nice on the right wing. And it's nothing against Rantanen. I just don't think it's been working these last few games with McKinnon and Rantanen. And we see that happen sometimes. It doesn't mean break it up, never return to it ever again. I just think it needs a little bit of a reset. And I want to feed McKinnon, who has been playing pretty well. And obviously Rantanen had a hat trick in the opening game. It's hard to deny that too. But I want to feed McKinnon what he needs. And I think what he needs is Casey Mittelstadt.
Would you say McKinnon's been pretty sick?
He's been pretty sick. Experts say.
The more I sit with it, I don't hate it that much. I don't like Wood there. I think Wood's kind of been...
Put Kovalenko there.
So that's what I was going to say. Swap Wood with Kovalenko, and you got me on board to try it out.
The only reason I put Wood there too is because of his role in Cale Ritchie's goal. He's got that speed to help establish the zone and create that entry opportunity. I'm not married to Wood being on the second line though.
I think Casey Mittelstadt's been nasty so far. I think he's been
and this
really
is
good
where
in
I
the
want to
first 3
unleash
games.
Mittelstadt too. His analytics have been a little tough because he's been on lines that from a possession side don't look so great because there's defensive errors happening. I think it hasn't painted him in the best light because he's scored goals in every game.
He's gold gores.
I just want to make this point really fast. I got a couple minutes here. I'm going to move to the defense really fast. I've seen enough from Oliver Shillington. For me, and this is just me, you got 8 defensemen. I'm done with that experiment. I thought he really, really struggled again last night. He made one of the most questionable defensive plays I've seen out of a professional player. He just covered nobody. There was 2 guys he could have taken, and he just covered no one. And they scored. Made a flailing kind of attempted poke check at it, fumbling pucks at the blue line. There were shifts, literally plays that were just dying when the puck went to him, either because he'd lose possession, make a bad play, he continued to look confused. And I thought Ludwig looked really good. And so I know we're going to get into the Cale Makar conversation here coming up, but to me, the Oliver Shillington experiment should have been over last night. I know it won't be. He's going to keep rolling into games here. He'll, be in the rotation to some extent, but through as many preseason games as he played, had over a week off, jumped into the game last night, and just I thought it was a lot of more of the same. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. You skipped ahead a little bit.
I know, but that's because I gotta go.
I know.
So I'll let you guys go back and then just know that's.
We'll remember that.
We'll know where Jesse stands on Shillington.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure to talk about the D because I thought there were a lot of struggles. Like there's like on the Anthony Duclair goal. I don't know what Cale Makar was doing. I don't know what he's thinking, chasing a guy behind the play that Anthony Duclair made was like. He did that. He was probably like, I cannot believe he went behind the net. I can't believe he did that.
Yeah. A rare bad night from Cale Makar. Actually, we have Cale Makar queued up from last night. Let's get to him, and then we'll kind of dive into the defense a little bit more because I feel like he had a lot of honest things to say. Classic Cale Makar, placing a lot of the blame on himself, which, I think is debatable from last night. You could place some blame on Cale Makar for sure, but obviously not all of it. So let's get to Cale Makar, and we'll break down the defense after that.
Jerez said last game, you could sense guys were a little tight on their sticks after that first period, a little nervous. Like what is the feeling you're getting in the locker room right now after 3 losses?
Yeah, I think for us, we just have to continue to stay confident in our abilities. Nobody can lose. We can't lose any of that right now. Obviously, at the end of the day, we're 0-3, and that it is what it is. But like I said, we got to learn from it. We're going to go back, and we got to play a really good team next game. So that's kind of the way it goes. And I don't think, obviously, at the end of the day, a lot of new guys in this room, and we might be feeling the pressure early on. Guys want to play well and stuff like that, gripping a little bit too tight. But that's on us as leaders to make sure that everybody can kind of relax and play our game. So, yeah.
You guys were scuffling 3 years ago out of the gate and were able to turn it around. Can that be a measuring stick for you? Or place where you don't get so discouraged?
For sure. I mean, every single team, you're going to go through spurts like this in the season. Obviously, you don't want it to be right at the start coming off camp, but at the same time, the year we won, the last 2 years, we've gone through stints where, last year, I don't know, we lost 6 or 7 or something like that, and it was just, the world seems like it's falling on top of you, but at the end of the day, you're going to find a way out of it. And I think that's the positive note that we got to take from this, and we definitely can't get down on ourselves, obviously. Yeah, we just got to win the next one. That's all we're focusing on.
Last year for Cale,
I
please.
know you've been really hard on yourself in this interview. How much of what happened with yourself tonight had to do with Devontae's being out?
I don't think any of it, to be completely honest with you. I should be able to play with all these guys, and we're a very capable back end. We should be able to mix and match pairings, and people can think what they want, and obviously it definitely looks like that now, obviously. So I just got to come back better than I was today, and that's all I got to focus on.
Yeah, thanks, Cale.
Thank you.
Whoa. Where did Jesse go? He vanished. It's Halloween season. Spooky Jesse. Let's get into Cale Makar's thoughts last night. Again, he put a lot of it on his shoulders. I don't know. Obviously, he had the one really bad turnover. Ended the night a -3, so on the ice for a lot of goals against. I don't know. What do you make of Cale Makar's comments and just the way he played last night?
Well, we know Cale pretty well at this point to know that with him it's not an effort, and it does feel very mental. I think that the challenge of trying to get their first win of the season and feeling the weight of the first 2 losses probably starts to weigh heavily on him as a leader of this team. I think that he takes a lot of personal responsibility for their success, and losing a key player like Taves and then having a new partner in Shillington created quite a challenge. I think that Shillington has looked confused a lot of this, and I worry that Makar felt added responsibility to paper over any mistakes that Shillington might reasonably make, having it be his regular season debut. And anytime Cale Makar steps outside of what he does best, when he tries to do too much, is when you see him get away from his game. He's a much smarter player than last night indicated, and I think he was trying to straddle too much responsibility and take on the weight of the game into his own hands. I think it led to some mental lapses that you don't ordinarily see.
Yeah, we saw in training camp Jared Bednar splitting up Devon Taves and Cale Makar and simply said, I want to see them play with other guys. You kind of now see why Jared Bednar wanted to do that, because Devon Taves and Cale Makar is such a consistent thing for us, and it allows Cale Makar to be Cale Makar. Devon Taves kind of wears the more defensively responsible forward or defenseman. Not saying that Cale Makar isn't defensively responsible, but it takes some of the pressure off of him, right? So putting a guy like Shillington with Cale Makar, I mean, what we saw from Shillington, Jesse is right. It's been the same thing since he got here. We haven't seen improvement. We've seen the same fanned on, bobbled pucks. We've seen the same confusion as to, you know, where he's expected to be and what role he's expected to play. And having a guy like Shillington next to Cale Makar definitely put more pressure on Cale Makar to, you know, kind of play the role of both Cale Makar and Devon Taves last night, which isn't exactly something he's used to. So I like Ludwig. I don't think he was amazing. He was fine, but I also appreciate how Jared Bednar wasn't necessarily sheltering either Shillington or Ludwig. He gave them plenty of minutes. I think they both ended with right around 18, the same that Malinsky ended up with, the same that Manson ended up with. So Shillington didn't love Ludwig. He's fine. But yeah, I think you gotta figure something out with Shillington. Doesn't feel like he's a good fit through 3 games and a whole preseason and training camp.
No, he doesn't look comfortable.
Mhm.
I've seen Shillington play at the NHL level just fine. I don't doubt that there's still an NHL player in there. I don't know if it's a mental thing for him, but it hasn't clicked for him in Colorado. It hasn't made sense. He still looks very confused. Whereas someone like Ludwig, a waiver pickup, which I'm so impressed just in one game, one bad game for the whole of the team, that he still looked pretty comfortable. And I think it's because his game lends itself to what his role is specifically within the Avs. what I think showed such a sign of trust in Ludwig too, and just how quickly he gets it, is being played with Malinsky, a player who's also a little bit greener to the NHL, but has picked things up pretty quickly too. It was a lot of trust in both those players. And so I still view it as something of a positive that they were a pretty neutral presence throughout the night. I felt like there was something even almost predictable or consistent about their performance too. They didn't really make grave errors. They didn't also make a difference in the game in turning it around single-handedly either. Not that I had that expectation. I think that it's encouraging for what that as a bottom pairing could be, especially if Dehan, is in and out of the lineup. Just for rest reasons. I think that Ludwig's shown in one game at least that he could be an intriguing option for the third pair, where I think as a waiver pickup, the expectation was probably pretty low. So that's at least kind of the positive. But where Shillington is concerned, I think we always knew this was a reclamation project, but I think it felt like the less risky of the options. Shillington felt like more of a sure thing than a Brandstrom. And so for him to be this uncomfortable and this confused still at this point, it's not a good sign that he's going to figure it out.
I like your little spray of positivity there on Ludwig. We know with defensemen in the Avalanche system, there's a heavy responsibility to be a part of the offense, right? I mean, the Avalanche love to get the puck deep and kick it back, or even if they enter the zone, they like to curl out right about the hash mark and kick it back up to the D. You need to be comfortable with the puck on your stick in the offensive zone. And that's where I don't see Shillington even showing a glimpse of promise. I think in the defensive zone, he can figure some things out. It's the offensive zone that I don't see him being able to fit into the system, because already we've seen him have laps after laps after laps and just unable to handle his responsibility with the puck once it gets up to the blue line. So I'm with Jesse. I'm out on Shillington.
Yeah, I haven't really liked him at either end, but I want to touch on your point. The one area that he's supposed to be strong in has perhaps been his weakest. I'm not even sure. Like, I hated his coverage in the D zone on the Brock Nelson goal that Jesse was talking about before he disappeared. But it is because he gets caught puck watching at the start of that shift. And then when Brock Nelson does come back, because Mikko Rantanen tried to bulldoze his guy out of the zone, and it just didn't work. The puck came back in. And so Brock Nelson's coming back, and Shillington just stands there. His stick is out. He's not even moving his stick to attempt a stick play. He doesn't engage the body at all to close in on that gap. And so Brock Nelson is pretty uncontested. And it's confusing why Shillington decides to do nothing there. And so I didn't like that. I didn't like some of his rush coverage as well, defending, 2-on-1. And then obviously in the offensive zone is where the mistakes that are being made, these don't even feel like mistakes an NHL player makes. It just feels so elementary. Not being able to keep the puck in the zone. You use the word bobbled, right? Like, they're bobbling out. He can't settle these pucks. He's not anticipating them at the blue line. They're losing their ozone possession. Even try to outmaneuver someone. And for, a guy who's touted for his skating ability, he's forced out of the zone. He can't even maneuver around him. It's just concerning. The things that should be strengths of his game, his puck moving ability, his speed, are still not being showcased. And instead, he's harming offensive opportunities.
Yeah, I think the offensive version of Shillington that we were kind of sold was more used to jumping into the play, being a part of the rush, finding himself below the circles and, creating offense there. But that's not what he's asked to do here. He's asked to man the blue line and create offense from there. And I think that's kind of where the disconnect is coming. And I don't know. Like I said, I've just given up hope. I want to see Ludwig there. I like his presence. I like his safety net attributes to him, right? He's just got that safe, stay-at-home defenseman feel to him that I think this roster and this defensive group is kind of more in need of than a Shillington.
It's true. They did need, throughout this whole time, a bottom pair. What was that going to be? Malinsky's pretty solid in that role. I think even where Ludwig, just in one game, seems to have an edge on even Calvin DeHaan is in his puck moving ability. I'm not going to pretend like it's to the level of the Makar and the Taves and the Gerards. But I think with DeHaan, what I saw is his play to like break out the puck and move the puck up ice. They were simple, so they weren't necessarily mistakes, but they were so simple that they were predictable to the other team, and that led to play just kind of stopping in the neutral zone. Whereas with Ludwig, I think that it was just a little more elevated. His ability to move the puck up ice and activate in the O zone just looked a little more elevated from what I've seen of DeHaan, that I even feel like he can add a little bit of that element. Won't be like the strength of his game, but to your point, I'd like to see what he can do in that role a little bit more than the other options.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing a rotation between Ludwig and DeHaan on that bottom pair. I think I'm perfectly comfortable moving on from Shillington. And I know Sean Barron's got hurt, but if you were to need that eighth defenseman, I think Sean Barron's impressed enough to, once he's back to full health, you can call him up and slide him in there as needed. And so just kind of feels like Shillington is the odd man out, and we'll see how they approach that situation. And I have a feeling they'll figure it out and move on from him as well. But until that happens, I guess you just kind of have to work with what you've got.
Yeah, I think it'll be a merciful release for Shillington. It hasn't worked out here. He got off on the wrong foot. I still think that he can be an NHL player. I think he needs a new opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he's kicking himself in the behind now that Calgary's 3-0 and the Avalanche are 0-3. He's like, shoot, I should have stayed in Calgary. I fit in there. I was better there.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about him like a horse with a broken leg. A merciful release, Megan called it.
Yikes.
I want to talk a little bit more about Mittelstadt. You touched on it a little bit before Jesse made us go on the defensive conversation route. Looks fantastic, despite not necessarily being comfortable with his line mates. 3 goals, 3 games. I predicted a career year for Mittelstadt. Do we see him in the Rocket Richard conversation?
Really?
Doesn't no,
Oh,
not
okay,
really.
okay.
I don't think he ends up with 82 goals, but a goal per game. I mean, that provides a ton of hope, a ton of confidence in what he's doing, especially with what you've brought up, just that the line mates aren't necessarily the perfect line mates for him. Not that they're terrible, not that they're amazing, but they're just not the right ones. If you can slide a Lehkonen, a Nichushkin, a Rantanen next to him, I mean, the sky's the limit for what Mittelstadt can do right now.
No, I agree with that. And I think that's why my move Mittelstadt to wing idea was controversial. Someone in the chat had asked, why go out and get a 2C just to play him on wing? That's temporary. I do not mean that he should play on the wing as a permanent thing. I think I just want to see Mittelstadt, not that he needs his confidence boosted with goals in the opening 3 games. I just feel like he's capable of even more than that if you put him with the right talent. And I want to see that fostered right now as the team is in search of not only their first win, but also more offense. Like, that's been also a difference maker in these games, is chasing them and just not being able to find some of those goals to bring it back within 1. Closing in on the 2-goal gap beyond has been very hard for them, especially in this last game. Creatively, it became even more challenging for them. I don't want that to continue to be a problem. It was in the preseason as well. And so I just want to pour into some of the things that have showed early returns, and Casey Mittelstadt is one of those things. It's just a temporary thing. And by design, their ideas for Casey Mittelstadt include a Nichushkin or a Lehkonen. The talent that he's meant to play with is still a part of the plan. And I can't wait to see it too, because he's been so good, even with the jumble of line mates that he's had to adjust to. And I'm so excited to see what he does next.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Just like the Avalanche need a spark right now. Why not lean into what is actually going right? Lean into McKinnon and Mittelstadt being able to produce right now to help get them out of this rut. Once that rut has been overcome, then you can get back to something a little more regular. But right now, the Avs are kind of desperate. Boston ahead of us. Boston coming in tomorrow. Anaheim should be a comfortable win, but Boston a true test. You rolled your eyes like you don't think Anaheim's even going to be an easy win.
We've seen them in mid-season form lose to, quote, lesser competition.
And John Gibson.
And, well, they won't have to worry about that right now, right? Is he healthy from the appendectomy yet?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. Honestly, we were looking at the timeline when Kakkonen went on waivers. I looked to Jesse and I said, how do you feel about Capo Kakinen. Anyways, we started talking about John Gibson, how if he wasn't hurt right now, and I looked at his timeline, I still think he's about a month out. So I don't think we have to worry about
Okay.
Gibson. I
Phew.
think we have to worry about Lucas Dostal, which is
Dostal,
also
yep.
not really easy to worry about. But I just feel this is a team. I'm not sure what, I thought Jared Bednar's post-game comments of he would have put money that they were going to come out better in this Islanders game. It's kind of how I feel is I don't know what to expect. I could see them beating Boston. That wouldn't entirely surprise me. I could see them losing to Anaheim too. That also wouldn't entirely surprise me. I think it's just on any given night, I don't know what Avs we're going to get. And that's where I'm at right now.
I think that's exactly where Jared Bednar's at, right? He doesn't understand what version of his team he's going to get. Some nights there's issues in starting the game early. Some night there's issues in the defensive coverage. Some nights, especially lately, your issues are in goaltending. So I think that's why you're seeing a little bit of a frustrated Jared Bednar right now, because the predictability of this team is just out the window, and you never know. But I'm with you. You can see an amazing version of the Avalanche come out against Boston. Boston having a pretty regular start to the season, nothing amazing. So if there's a time to, beat them, it's probably right now. But yeah, I don't know.
They need a hero.
They need a spark. They need a hero. Is it Mittelstadt on the wing?
Is it Casey Mittelstadt on the wing? Look, I'm gonna regret saying that. But I do think that McKinnon could realistically be a hero.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he's been on the brink of that. I think the power play for the Avs has been interesting. Obviously, giving up a shorthanded goal is bad, but it has been converting pretty consistently. I view the Mittelstadt goal as a power play goal just because it had expired, but I think that's something that could still be a weapon for the Avs moving forward once they start to figure some things out. And I love an underdog story. Like Cale Ritchie, I hope he wants another NHL goal and another one and another NHL point. And so I'm still looking to all these possible storylines to pop off, a Cale Makar redemption game.
Yeah, back-to-back off nights from Cale Makar and Nathan MacKinnon aren't normal. I think you see them both bounce back. You see them both really contribute on the score sheet, but who the hell knows, because back-to-back Avalanche home losses aren't normal either.
No.
And that's what we've just seen. So definitely the start to the year that I kind of expected, a little bit of question marks everywhere. We'll see how they handle it, but it's still a mold in progress. It's still something that I think will get resurrected. It's just about when and how and who is the hero, who steps up.
Have you lost any confidence in Jared Bednar as a coach?
Yesterday, I kind of tiptoed around this conversation, if you remember, really pointing at UC Parkala, pointing at the Avalanche slow start to the season, didn't have a great preseason. Even the practices were looking a little shaky. It doesn't feel like Jared Bednar did an exceptional job of preparing this team for the start of the season. Is that on Jared Bednar? I'm not going to say 100%. The players have some responsibility there as well. So is a little seed of doubt starting to creep in my mind? Maybe so, but I also know that this is maybe one of the biggest challenges that Jared Bednar has faced as an Avalanche coach. And there's going to be obstacles in a career. There's going to be obstacles in a tenure when you're, on your 9th year as a coach with a particular team. So I'm waiting to see how these obstacles get managed and how they overcome these hurdles before I let that seed of doubt get watered or sprayed, if you will. So right now, I still fully believe in Jared Bednar and what he can do and what he's capable of as a teacher. And I want to see how that evolves throughout the season and how he teaches certain aspects of this group.
I've seen parallels to Edmonton and the rough period kind of extended at the start of the year last year and the decisions that they had to make. Was it last year or am I going back to
last year?
Is it 2 seasons ago? Okay. I think the difference in those parallels is that Bednar has a cup to his name, and the track record of turning around the 48-point season team. That was a difficult team to inherit, kind of in a rut, to be able to turn it around from one season to the next. Granted, we're looking for in-season changes with this group to get out of this rut, so it is still a little bit different. But I think that track record, both as a winner with the cup to his name and then the turnaround from the 48-point season, are why I have to kind of break down the Edmonton parallels. I just don't see that being the option for the Avs. I don't think it would be in their best interest to make that kind of decision around Bednar. I do want to see, to your point though, the teaching element and the changes. Right now, 3 losses, the L feels the same. It feels like it's created equally across the board, but they've lost the games in kind of different ways. The first 2 felt very similar. This last one felt kind of different. As long as I continue to see different and ideally improvement from this point, I don't really feel concern around Bednar. I normally don't, to be honest with you. I have a lot of faith in him, so maybe there's just bias that needs to be overcome there, but I still have belief in him to right this ship. I know some people are concerned that his laid-back style as a coach is not what this team needs right now. I don't know how to feel about that. I think that there are voices in the room separate from Bednar that aren't really laid back. And so there is a mix of voices that are going to be adding to the feedback that this team is getting right now. As long as that persists too, I think it's what this group needs. The kind of Devon Taves, some guys are playing and they think they know what they're doing, but they're not. I think they need that kind of feedback from a player like that right now.
Yeah, I think Jared Bednar is simply working with what he's got. And right now, what he's got on the whole is weaker than what he's worked with in the past. So I think you give him a little flexibility there. And yeah, I think the laid back style is kind of what this group needs, because you have the emotion, you have the negativity almost with a guy like Nathan MacKinnon in the room. He's a big voice in that room. You need somebody to be the yin to that yang. If you have 2 guys who are kind of getting emotional, getting a little bit, starting to kick trash cans and yell in the room, I think that's a spiral that you don't really want to explore.
It's a gamble too, finding a new coach and wondering if they'll fit and be compatible with a MacKinnon. Patrick Waugh obviously wasn't. So I think that it's not a gamble that you take abruptly or impulsively either in having compatibility between coach and player with MacKinnon and Bednar. You don't want to give that up for nothing.
Yeah. Agreed. Jared Bednar's built too much of a foundation here to be really getting in serious conversation about if he's on the hot seat or not. We'll see some win streaks from the Avalanche. We'll see them get out of this rut. We'll see them get back into some ruts. At the end of the day, I think we have to assess what Jared Bednar does throughout this season and thus the playoffs. Come playoff time, if they're one and done, maybe we can revisit this conversation depending on how the season unfolded. But we got to take the picture as a whole, not just the first 3 games in preseason.
Do they lose one of their best top 6 wingers in the playoffs again?
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's hard to judge and evaluate the coach when things beyond his control like that happen.
And that's what's weird is he's in the years that he's struggled recently, he gets a pass of some sort. So it's tough to fully objectively assess everything. So I think another year under his belt will allow us to do that.
I think you're right.
Fun thing I wanted to get to before we wrap up the show. We neglected it yesterday. That was Carmelo Anthony at the CU Buffs game. I don't know if you saw this.
In the Avs jersey?
In a Peter Forsberg jersey with the hat to match, looking just sharp as ever. I mean, he's got a lot of gall wearing that, considering that people around here kind of hate him. But I appreciate him showing his support for the Avalanche and showing off his pretty sweet outfit there. Meanwhile, his son was wearing a Detroit Red Wings jersey. Not sure the idea behind that. But just wanted to shout out Carmelo. Usually he's on my shit list. Today he's on my good list for the first time in a long time.
This reminded me because of basketball that Lonzo Ball will be making his regular season debut for NBA.
I think tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow? I forget. For some reason, I thought I read Wednesday was.
I read Wednesday.
Yeah, which is
I
tomorrow,
think that's incredibly exciting and
Mhm.
something we should keep an eye on and just see how that goes for him.
Absolutely. Avs fans should definitely be paying attention to that game and notice because what? Gabe Landeskog is 2 months behind
Yeah,
him?
they're so close in their timeline. Is it still preseason for Nuggets? What is the?
Yeah, I don't think the regular season has started yet.
So I think it's a
think next week
preseason game.
sometime.
That's still exciting. Lonzo Ball.
Avs fans, watch the Bulls. Cool. That's all I really wanted to get to for today. I think we covered a lot. We've done a lot of shows. Let's see how the Avalanche handle Boston, and then we'll be back here on Friday to break that down. Spray some more positivity all over this. This set is soaked right now.
Like popping
from all this
champagne.
spray.
Positivity.
Cool. I mean, there's nobody better at being positive than Megan. So
Ooh. I describe hockey as inoffensive or offensive. I was thinking about that the other day. Like, that means that someone's hockey has offended me.
Yeah.
And it has, but
Ugh.
I avoid talking about whose hockey offends me.
No, I love the dynamic we've built on this show and the little time we've been together. So I hope everybody is loving it as well. Let us know what you think. Of course, don't be too mean. Unless you're being mean to Jesse, then we're fine with it. Other than that, thanks everybody for hanging out with us. That's it for our show today. We'll be back Friday. We'll see you later.